Welcome back, and if you're just joining us now, this is Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. We shift gears now from Eye on Politics, we get to transformative leaders, and today we are looking at a very interesting topic, which is investing more in infrastructure and its impact on livelihood. My name is Mike Megwe, and to help me with this conversation in studio, I'm joined by Shama Kiteme, who is a civil and structural engineer. Thank you for making time for Good Morning Kenya. Karibu sana to the show. Yeah. Now, maybe the first thing I would want to ask you from where you stand. As a country, where are we in terms of infrastructure, and how do we compare globally?
All right, so where are we in terms of infrastructure?
Yes.
And how do we compare globally?
Yes.
Well, a good point to begin is to acknowledge that in the region, Kenya is basically a leader. We are a transportation hub in East Africa, actually East and Central Africa. We have airports. We have fairly good infrastructure. Actually, we are a leader in the region. However, you're talking about just 246,000 kilometers of roads and about 22,000 of those paved. You're talking about Nairobi JKIA International Airport, Moi. We have Eldoret, we have Kisumu.
Yes.
We have the port in Mombasa. And so in terms of infrastructure and critical infrastructure, we have key assets. Not to mention the fact that some of them were laid out in the 70s, like JKIA. And so the need for expansion, the need for additional runways and all that. And we also need to develop parts of the country that have left undeveloped for very many years. Historically, we have developed along the Mombasa-Malaba railway. You know, either side of the railway, we have had towns spring up.
Yes.
And so definitely it tells you that infrastructure spurs development, economic development, and having huge parts of the country without infrastructure, you condemn them to remain undeveloped. And so globally, we still way low, if you talk globally, because we have even countries near us starting to develop tram, electric trains. When you move to the west, for example, you have very well developed transport infrastructure.
Yes.
We have tubes, we have efficient means of mass transportation. And so we don't fare very well when you look at it globally. And that means on the positive side, there's a significant growth space that we can jump into as a country. And basically very exciting for me as an engineer, because this is a space that engineers we operate in. So yeah, regionally we are like a leader, and basically a leader because even we feed in Central Africa. They use our ports, they use our train to evacuate cargo. But globally, still a lot needs to be done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which now brings us to the point, what is the importance of investing in infrastructure, and what will be the impact on the livelihood of the people?
You definitely gain a lot when you invest in infrastructure. And I'll put it this way. Good infrastructure is actually can be a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
If you drive from here and about 160 kilometers, you are not in tarmac, and you're about 24 or 30 kilometers, like where I drive to my village. The 24 kilometers I drive on rough road, they can make a lot of difference. If I'm in the village and I have a snake bite, if I'm in the village and I need a quick evacuation, it will matter if I can quickly be evacuated to a hospital, if I need a hospital. And that means I need to move very fast by car. If possible, it adds value if there is even an airstrip for medical evacuation and all that. Now, so it's very important to invest in infrastructure in that regard. Now, this country needs about 700 billion annually to be able to consistently invest in infrastructure in a way that we can be transformative.
Yeah.
Now, you and I know that resources are always limited because we are competing with other things. However, it cannot be overemphasized, the criticality of the need to invest in infrastructure. It makes the whole lot of difference. I'll tell you, 25th August last year, we saw a countrywide power blackout, and about 17 hours or so, there was no power. Now, if there's a patient in a hospital who is on life support, ventilator, and you need to go, you need power in anesthesia machines to do a life-saving surgery, the failure of power is a life-threatening issue in this country. And so you have to resort for other means, backup power systems and all that. And so it just tells you how intertwined to meaningful life is infrastructure and the need to invest in infrastructure and make sure that this is inclusive.
Yes.
All parts of the country are equally developed. Because again, we have instances whereby parts of the country, they really do not have infrastructure.
Talk about the aspect where Kenya tends to have infrastructural projects based on population density. What is that impact? How does this impact the economic livelihoods of people, say, living in arid and semi-arid area? Because you cannot compare Nairobi with a person or infrastructure that is found in northern parts of the country.
Yeah, I just said that historically the country has developed along the Mombasa-Malaba railway.
Yes.
And so we had towns and economic centers spring up right or left side of the railway. That tells you infrastructure does spur development because it is a facilitator to economy. Compare this to some parts of this country, and I'm aware my colleagues involved in projects in northern part of this country, they will tell you that you can move from a part of the country like Isiolo to Mandera by road, and you will take 7 days. That is unbelievable in this country, because you can move from here to Mombasa, which is roughly 480 kilometers thereof. I mean, in a few hours. Even with a plane, it's 45 minutes, for example, by air. And so that is definitely unheard of in a country like this. It becomes then a country of inequity. And the tiebreaker or the game changer is actually infrastructure. Gladly, I'm aware that we are doing infrastructure in that part of the country, for example. And so where you could, with your best attempt in the very good car, spend 4 days by road, you will be able to reduce that one to a few hours, because it should be possible.
Yeah.
I mean, and so then now you have a country like, which is two different countries. One part of the country, because of infrastructure, this is very important, underlining infrastructure. I mean, you have a country where moving is very difficult. You have a country whereby, I mean, insecurity springs up. For example, when you talk of this part of the country where you've had a lot of insecurity issues in the northern part of the country, imagine State House was in Wajir. Imagine the seat of the parliament or legislature was in Mandera. Definitely we would put infrastructure to make sure those parts of the country are safe. And so you are looking at a situation whereby population can lead infrastructure, because where people are, you can, then it becomes the infrastructure demand increases. But also infrastructure itself can lead into population and people moving to there, because then when there is infrastructure, there is safety, people can carry out economic investment. There is you know, there are economic undertakings that make sure then, if it is agriculture, you need to evacuate. If it is industries, you need to, you know, transport the finished products to wherever they need to get the market. And so What we are saying in very many words is that infrastructure is intertwined with economic development. And this must be in top of our mind, even as we make decisions about infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah.
How does it intertwine with the economic activities of a region? Say, for instance, a person in Mandera has herds of cattle, herds of camel. How does infrastructure intertwine with the economic development of an area and impact the people in a way that lifts their lifestyle?
Yeah, think of it this way. I have the cattle in whatever, Mandera. It could be somewhere in Narok. And that's my main economic activity. The product, whether beef, whether milk, or skins and hides, they may not be needed where I am. They're needed elsewhere. In Nairobi, they're needed elsewhere. In London, they're needed elsewhere. In Melbourne.
Yes.
The difference, whatever makes the difference, is if that aspect of me being able to take the product that I need to take to the market. And then it creates gainful economic activity. And the enabling environment then becomes infrastructure. Do I have the roads if I want to transport by the roads? Do I have the airports if I have to transport by air? Or if I'm talking about maritime economy, in which case it is not what you. Do I have the ports and all that? So that aspect of not having infrastructure, it makes my goods and products lose value. They're worthless because I have a lot of them and they have no way of getting them out to the market. And so it consigns me to poverty. And so the difference between the infrastructure being there and not being there becomes then an economic issue of an economic injustice and consigning to people to poverty and lack of development or poor development for that matter because of lack of infrastructure. And so we cannot overemphasize the need for infrastructure even in the context of economic development, in the context of improving the welfare of human beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about how infrastructure projects can be used to attract domestic and foreign investment and contribute to the economic growth of a country like Kenya.
Yeah. The contribution of of infrastructure to attracting investment. This is very important. The link between investment and infrastructure. Now, one of the things, if you talk to any investors, the other day I was talking to a team of colleagues from Denmark, and they were interested to understand our past situation. They were interested to understand our road network. They were interested to understand how we are enabling the movement of people. Because if someone wants to invest in Talk of Narok, for example, I have done projects, for example, in Olkalau as an engineer. And we have flower farms in Olkalau. We have flower farms in big parts of Nyandarua. You know, flowers needs to be harvested and transported very fast. An investor wants to invest in flower farming in Nyandarua, in Olkalau, in Naivasha, whatever. They need to be sure that once they put in their flower farms, they can harvest the flowers and transport them quickly. And they need to be sure that the moment they take them to the airport, they are going to fly them to Netherlands very quickly. Because, you know, these are perishables.
Yes.
They will lose their value the moment they will stay there without being evacuated. And so it becomes then very necessary and very important for us to guarantee investment to have the infrastructure in place. Now, I already said that we need about 700 billion annually for a couple of years to really catch up with the infrastructure needs for this country. But we also need to be innovative in terms of financing, whether we need to concession, whether we need engineer, procure, construct, and finance, model of financing infrastructure, whether we need PPPs.
Yes.
we need, there are various models because, the country is suffering from the huge debt burden.
Yes.
But for us to invite foreign direct investment, to encourage more investors, we must be deliberate to develop infrastructure. Talk of power, talk of airports, talk of roads, talk of a blue economy. Yes. We need to invest in that so that then we have terminal points where investors who want to invest and do products, do manufacturing, they can evacuate the products and link them to the markets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, talk about the disparities in infrastructural project. How can disparities be addressed to enhance connectivity? Because it's one of the things that will spur economic growth. How can this be addressed, and opportunities that enhance the quality of life of the people?
Yeah, we have disparities, and I already pointed out that.
Yeah.
But for me, the genius of our 2020 constitution was in the devolution aspect. And this means we can develop from where we are. And I would vouch for what I call bottom-up development approach. And I'm saying this not because of the political word of what you know the better,
yes,
but because you can develop from top down, where you impose development on people.
Yes.
But you can also develop from bottom up, where you begin from where people are, from their culture, and grow from there. What do people do? Are they doing agriculture? Why don't you improve their agriculture from there? Are they doing cattle farming? Are they doing fishing? You can develop them from there and make them add value to the economic and what their culture has evolved to be. Add value to that process if it's cattle, add value to that process if it's fishing, add value to that process if it's agriculture. Mechanize it, make it, add economic approach as opposed to being subsistence by mechanization, by mass production, by increasing the area of acreage under production. And by doing that, then you enhance inclusivity, you enhance the capacity of those people to develop from where they are and keep on improving, and then you build the infrastructure they need to commercialize whatever they do. So it is necessary, it is important that we work from where people are, we develop them from there, and then we capacitate from there, and make sure that this happens across the country, because it makes no sense. You go and meet someone in Turkana, and they ask you, because you're coming from Nairobi, how is Kenya? It's a huge indictment to our society. We must make sure that this cuts across, and you can thrive where you are. Whether you are in Tana River, whether you are in Mwingi, whether you are in Narok, whether you are in Isiolo, you can thrive from there. And actually, one of the most innovative ways that we can just make sure that this country grows is to make sure that we have the right infrastructure pretty much in every part of this country, in all the counties, 47 of us, so that then people can do economic investment in those parts of the country, and they are able to commercialize whatever they are doing. That becomes very necessary, and it's actually almost a question of economic injustice when we do not invest in infrastructure in the different parts of this country. Yeah.
Yes. So the idea is to tailor infrastructural projects that meet the needs and the economic activities of people within a region.
Absolutely.
That will spur their development and enhance their livelihood.
Yeah.
Now, talk about how inclusive sustainable development strategies can be implemented to ensure the benefits of infrastructure projects are distributed widely and equally, especially in areas that are less developed.
Yeah. Economic, sustainable, inclusivity and sustainability are very relevant words in this day and age. We need to think about every corner of this country. We need to think about what can gainfully be, sourced from that place.
Yes.
We need to enhance that. We need to develop that. Now, we need power infrastructure, for example, for us to be able to invest in all parts of the country. And we saw the recent problems with power infrastructure. We seem to have not invested as much on the power infrastructure, so that we have overloading and collapse of the grid. We need to invest sustainably in power infrastructure. We need to think about water. In all parts of this country, 80% of this country is actually arid and semi-arid. We need to invest in dams. You can have a mantra of dam in every village in this country. And what you do when you do that, you avail water in all over the country. And then that water, which we can get through rainwater harvesting, by damming the water and all that, and containing what we lose every time there is a downpour, then it can sustainably be applied by the people living there. Because when you have water, you are able to carry out agriculture.
Yes.
When you have water, you are able to have, a meaningful sanitation. You are able to get the water for drinking, for other purposes, for industries and all that. And so our planning must be sustainable in terms of providing solutions where people are, in a manner that we harvest the nature. This is what engineers do. We harvest what is provided by nature, and we have a lot of water that runs down. Every time it rains, we have chaos in this city.
Yes.
Why? Because we have not built stormwater infrastructure. When we are paving the services, we are replacing ground for water seepage. And what we are creating is water as runoff. That water as runoff needs storm infrastructure to evacuate it. Now, if you don't do that, then you're creating flooding atmosphere. So sustainability comes when we think about every person where they are. And we have even very low reach for sanitation infrastructure, for example, only about 30% of our country. And so we must think about infrastructure in totality, in a sustainable manner, and where people are. Can we have innovative ways of doing buildings, for example? We can have. We have vernacular buildings. There is a way people in Coast build. There is a way people in Maasai build. Can we harness that and harvest that in a way that we work with the culture of the people, enhance it, build on it sustainably? Because that then becomes very important. You don't just need to disrupt people's way of life so much, but sustainability also has an aspect of working with the community, with the society, integrating their value system as you develop infrastructure. So that becomes very important. We must think about even expanding our railway network. We only have about 2,800 kilometers of railway, and we need railway infrastructure to evacuate heavy cargo and reduce the wastage on our roads, because when we have the vehicles with the heavy tonnage on our roads, then we continue to destroy them. We only have about 500 kilometers, 85 or so of MGR, of SGR. We need to expand that. And we also need to expand MGR, so that then we have proper infrastructure touching all parts of this country, and make Nairobi only Ontario, so that we can evacuate from each part of the country, because we have put the relevant infrastructure. And so we cannot overemphasize infrastructure in this country.
In your own view, what can you say is what is the problem that makes infrastructural development, especially in developing countries, unattractive for private investors as we wind up?
Number one, and I'm privileged to chair a committee under Federation of African Engineering Organizations, construction working group. We have a big problem with corruption. Corruption is killer, because really you want to be sure that when you invest in infrastructure, you'll get value for your investment. I have talked to friends from Ghana, from Zimbabwe, from Rwanda, from all over Egypt, and we have the same problem: corruption. If you make it clean, when private investors who value their money, and the good thing is that we have now individuals who can finance an entire budget of a country. We need to create an opportunity for them to come in and make them do clean business. We heard of a story where an investor wanted to invest somewhere in Kitui, and then he was asked for kickbacks by government players. He ran away. He went to another country. And so we need to provide an opportunity for clean business, for people who want to plow in their money, and whether they recover it through toll,
yes.
we are paying through SGR. You drive there very fast, you're in the airport. And so that means we are able to welcome, to invite private investors. They invest and they gain their investment
yes.
By doing clean business.
Yes.
And so that's a very big hindrance
yes.
in corruption. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for gracing Good Morning Kenya.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. We have been talking to Engineer Shama Kiteme, who is a civil and structural engineer. The topic has been investing more in infrastructure and its impact on the livelihood. Good Morning Kenya takes a short break. My name is Mike Megui. Stay with us.